a difficult client. That could mean different things. A difficult client could mean someone who maybe is always late or always cancels. In those cases, I try to ask them, what's going on, or what are the barriers preventing them from being consistent with treatment. Sometimes in situations like that, I just find that maybe they're just not ready for treatment. And as long as they're not putting themselves in danger or in harm's way, they have the right not to go to therapy. Maybe they're just not ready. So in cases like that, maybe I can provide other resources, or maybe they're just not connecting with me. So maybe I can provide a referral to another therapist. If they stop coming, then I always let them know that if you want to come back and I have space available, then yeah, I'll be more than happy to work with you again if it's appropriate. A difficult client can also be someone that maybe is a little confrontational or defensive during sessions, and maybe it's just not hearing what I'm saying. And that can mean many different things. So I want to make sure that I listen very well, ask questions, try to first of all convey it. Well, first of all, I have to make sure I keep my cool and be calm and patient, and also convey to them that I'm here to listen to them, to support them. I'm always open to feedback. So if something is not working for a client, I wanna know so I can address those issues with them, address them together. Let's see. Yeah, from my experience, those are the two kinds of difficult clients, and that's those are the ways I handle them. So the answer is mostly no, but I have in the past, but not, how do I say this? Not too much. So self-disclosing is something that's not really encouraged, but there are instances where I feel that it's appropriate to self-disclose. And if I do self-disclose, it's very limited. So for example, I don't remember the particular case, but I'm sure I've said something to the effect of, I'm also an immigrant. I've, coming from a different country, coming to the United States, and how difficult it is, working with clients who maybe are new to the city or new to the United States, and the difficulties that they're having. So, I want to convey the fact that I can understand what they're going through, and for some people to hear that, that's very helpful. But I don't go into further details like when I came here, why I came here, things like that. I don't go into further details. So self-disclosing is okay, but I have to make sure that it's appropriate, that it's necessary to the work that I do with a client. And if I do self-disclose, it's very, very limited. Self-care. Yes, I'm a very big advocate of self-care. I talk to my clients a lot about this. So like I said, yes, my work with clients can be stressful. So it's very important that I practice self-care, and I'm sure a lot of you therapists out there will agree with me. So let's see, what do I do for self-care? So I want to make sure that I leave my work here in the office. I try not to do work at home. I try. And I make sure that I'm involved in other things, from seeing my friends on the weekends, engaging in a hobby. I'm a volleyball player, so I'm part of a league. So that's a good way of practicing self-care, playing sports, and also being around people, other players, and my friends as well. My family is a big support to me, so whenever I see them, I feel relaxed. Let's see, I do some reading. I like to eat. I go to restaurants, watch movies. Traveling is a good way to de-stress, if I can afford it. Let's see. yeah, I try to stay active, going to the gym, working out, or just being active, whether that's especially in the summer, doing hiking, biking, going to the beach, things like that. So, it's really important that I do other things outside of work that is healthy and can just get my mind off the work that I do. And so that's for all of you out there, self-care, work-life balance, very important. And yes, I've seen clients in public, whether it's on the street or at a restaurant. As a gay therapist, I've definitely seen other LGBTQ clients, maybe in restaurants, bars, or in the streets. Yeah, so that has happened in the past. So I always tell clients when they first start working with me that when we do see each other in public, that we have a very limited interaction. So what that means, at least for me, I don't know about you other therapists out there, it means to me that we will say hello to each other, maybe ask how are you, but that's it. We don't interact further. And if sometimes it may be necessary to address that interaction in session, and that's something I always welcome. But yeah, I try to limit the interactions I have with clients to the best of my abilities. I've been asked this also quite a few times from friends. Look, I'm only human. Yes, of course, I've found clients attractive, but I'm a professional, so I will keep that to myself. I will acknowledge it, but then always remind myself that I'm here as a therapist. I'm a professional. I'm here to help my clients, and I will focus on those. I will focus on how to best help them, and just keep that attraction somewhere in the back of my head, and I move forward. So yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to think that clients will not be with me forever. At some point, they have to leave, or they have to not be in therapy anymore. I've definitely had situations where a client just stops coming without any kind of feedback. Some clients have said, Lloyd, I don't want to come back for different reasons. Obviously, I try not to take things. I don't take things personal. In the beginning of my career, yes, I'd feel bad about myself maybe, and I'll feel a little sad. But as I've grown as a therapist, I have learned not to take things personal. The clients have reasons, and if possible, I'll invite a client back for maybe one more session just to get some feedback, find out more about why they're not coming back to therapy. Maybe there's something else I can do to help them. Maybe provide another referral to a different therapist or a different kind of program, things like that. And that has definitely happened before. I had a client who decided not to come back, and I was able to get her to have one more session, and we addressed some issues and why it didn't work out and why she decided to leave, and I was able to provide some further support. But yeah, and those are things that I do. When clients decide not to come back, and obviously there are cases where it's time for a client to not be in therapy anymore. They've reached a lot of they've definitely progressed a lot, showed a lot of improvements, and those are things that I work with clients. So we work together. I provide my feedback, my assessment, and I ask for their own self-assessment. And if we both agree that it's for the best, then yeah, a client terminates with me, and that's a good termination, which means good work to that client. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I do. So, worst thing about becoming or being a therapist, I think I don't know if it's the worst thing, but look, being a therapist has its tough moments. It's not always easy. When, like I said earlier, when you're working with maybe a difficult client, when the client is not showing progress in the work or they stop coming. I mean, that's difficult. Sometimes I begin to question myself, my abilities as a therapist, especially during my earlier years as a therapist. Now I still, look, I'm only human. I still have those questions sometimes. Other challenges, like I said, dealing with insurance companies. That's why a lot of my fellow therapists don't accept insurance. But I do. When an insurance company doesn't pay me doesn't pay me correctly. Well, some of them also don't pay as well. Therapists, that. And when you call, try to get some answers, you get transferred from one department to the other, or you don't get the right answer, things like that. So, there's a lot of challenging parts of becoming a therapist, frustrating parts, but I wouldn't say they're like worse or bad, bad kind of things. Best thing is when I see progression, when I see clients improving, and I can tell that the work we've done has been very successful. So, for example, when I work with kids, when I did child therapy, I remember this kid very well because he was exposed to domestic violence, so a lot of trauma there, and we did a lot of play therapy. And I remember him playing a lot with those little cars, what do you call them, like matchboxes, and he would smash them against each other every time he played. And he would include G.I. Joes, and those would start flying. And he would never allow me to join in the play. And this went on for a few months, and then finally, at some point, I remember this very well, he allowed me to be part of his play, and I was holding a toy ambulance, and he allowed that to be part of his play, and then he put a G.I. Joe on top of the ambulance. And I asked him where are they going, and he said, to the hospital because the G.I. Joe is hurt. I was like, well, inside of me, I was like, yes, this is progress, this is healing. I also had a kid who we did a lot of art therapy, so she would draw a lot, and so a lot of, in the beginning, dark colors, very grim pictures, and then after a few months, more vibrant colors, yellow, orange, red, things like that, and flowers and mountains and birds. So that was really amazing for me to see the progress that they made. And when the parents come to me and say, Lloyd, thank you very much for helping my child. Oh my God, I remember this one family. I remember the mother telling me, Lloyd, thank you very much for bringing my son back. That was very touching. And the work is not easy, but to hear that kind of comments, those kinds of feedback from parents or from clients, it reminds me of why I'm doing this job. That despite the challenges, I sense I have the fulfillment of doing this work. I have a sense of fulfillment in doing this job. In my private practice now, same thing. When I see a client progressing, achieve his or her goals in therapy, and they come to me and said, Lloyd, thank you very much for helping me. I mean, those are obviously successful cases. I have a few of those stories. In particular, I've worked with clients who went through divorce, and I've worked with them from before they went through the divorce to during the divorce process, and then life after divorce. So they met new friends, they started dating again, and that's just an example of the progression that I've seen with clients, and that makes me feel good as a therapist. And that's really about them. They did the work. I always have to remind them that you did the work, not me. I'm here to provide the guidance, the structure, but you did the work. So kudos to all of my clients. So yeah, that makes me feel good, and those are really the best part of being a therapist. So, final question, and a very good question. Biggest lesson I've learned. I've learned a lot through the years, but I guess the biggest lesson I've learned, and this was a hard lesson to learn, especially in the beginning parts of my career, and still is a very important lesson to learn for all of you therapists out there, is that I cannot help everyone. I'm in the helping profession, so my goal is to help people. But there are just moments, or there are clients where I won't be able to help them. I cannot help everyone. I cannot help with all cases, all situations. And that's the reality of it. I remember one of my supervisors in my first few jobs, Georgina. Hi, Georgina. She told me that if you find yourself working harder than the client, then there's something wrong. Because, like I said earlier, it's really the clients who has to do the work. The clients have to do the work. We're here to provide help, resources, support, structure, things like that, but they have to do the work. But if I find myself working harder than them, then it's probably not working. And that's an important lesson to learn, that I have learned through the years. And yeah, I can't help everyone. And like I said earlier, sometimes the clients are just not ready for help. And that's okay. Like I said, as long as they're not putting themselves in danger, they're not, self-harm or suicide or things like that. Obviously, when those things happen, I have to step in. I have to make sure that they're safe. Primary goal for me is to make sure my clients are safe. But yeah, sometimes, some clients are just not ready to put in the work, and maybe someday they will be. But, that's difficult for someone who wants to help people. So yeah, that's definitely a lesson that was hard to learn, but I had to learn, and I always remind myself of that. So that's it. Those are all. Those are not all the questions. There's a few more, but I picked the ones that have been asked of me a lot. So those are the questions and my answers. And I hope you got to know a lot about me in today's video. So this is my final video of 2019. I'd like to thank all of you for everyone who has seen and watched my videos. Thank you very much. If you are new to my channel, please make sure to subscribe and like this video. And I look forward to having more of these videos, these vlogs next year. I hope you all had a great holiday, a great 2019, and and before I forget, if you have any questions or have any suggestions for future vlog content, please make sure to comment down below, or you can check out my website, lloydfider.com, and you can send me feedback there and questions as well. But other than that, again, happy holidays to all of you, and here is to a successful and healthy 2020. Happy New Year, and as I always say at the end of my videos, I wish all of you to have a happy Mental Health Day. Take care and Happy New Year!